According to the latest information of the prefecture, there are over 70 people died from this earthquake. We are going to send our deepest condolence to those who suffered from this time's earthquake. And we are going to continue the relief and rescue work, including diverting the forces of the firefighters, the National Defense Forces, and the police forces into the disaster-stricken areas. Healthcare workers is also going to be sent to the disaster-stricken area. We want to thank all the hard works of the frontline workers. Currently, the building locally are dominated by the wooden structures. There are several buildings collapsed after this time's earthquake several days later. So we are going to follow the people-centered principle, and we are going to work harder on the site, especially we are going to divide these different routes into several different categories, and we are going to resume the transportations of the routes who's connecting the prefecture first, and then we are going to resume the operations of the coastal area. Actually, for this time's earthquake, there is over 1,900 households in the prefectures and 2,200 households in this prefecture suffered from the water shortage, while there is 110,000 households suffered from the power breakdown. We are going to make all unneeded effort in order to fill the basic necessities of the local people. In order to have a better control of what is happening in the situation, our National Defense Forces is going to be there and set meeting of the local demands. Yesterday, I have increased the numbers of the National Defense Forces from 1,000 to 2,000 defense officers. Today, I'm going to increase them again to 4,500 defense officers. And we are also going to activate all the government or service providers as well as the governmental officers in order to meet up with the local demand. There is an urgent need of the foods and other daily necessities. We are going to deliver the bread, the instant noodles, milk, as well as the toilet paper in order to satisfy the local people's demand. And based on the numbers of those who are suffered from this earthquake, we are going to provide sufficient necessities of those who are suffered from this earthquake. After we solve these issues and after we resume the roads operation, these are going to be our first response. Actually, we have also going to reallocate the resources of the Majima City as well as the Nishima City's working forces in order to resume the route operation. And we are also going to prioritize the supplies of the gasolines and the other different energy-related material supplies. After coordinating all kinds of the material supplies to the local prefectures, We are also going to provide all the necessities which is demanded on the areas. Generally speaking, we think that there is a sufficient supply about the daily necessities. In order to deliver the daily necessities to the point where it is urgently needed, we are going to maneuver all the efforts. We are looking for the whole nation to understand our late response and our late operations. I understand that during this time, everybody has all kinds of the anxieties. But during these anxieties, we should always be health-centered and people-centered, and we should always care about any potential and secondary disasters, including the fires and the landslides. I am with Japanese Economic News. I have two questions. The first one is that since we are resuming the route connections with the sites, what is the situation on the sites? The second question is about the death tolls and also the damaged, the hurted people. How can we comfort those who lose their lives in this time's earthquake and their relatives? The first question is that we are quite sorry about the route situation. And right now we are working on the police forces. And we have detected 134 emergencies where we are going to allocate the sources from the firefighters, from the police officers, and also from the National Defense Forces. Just as I have mentioned, there is 132 emergency cases is piling up on the police officers' tables. We are going to deal them first. Today, for these 134 cases, we are going to come up with a solution. And there is also another point. We have figured out that there are 24 points of the routes which is inaccessible. Today, according to the report, locally speaking, we are going to allocate the resources of the helicopters in order to provide the daily necessities. And for these 24 areas who is lacking the daily necessities, their daily necessity is going to be delivered by helicopters. We are going to work on the make all-out efforts. And you are talking about the death tolls and also the relatives from the earthquake. I believe we have already surpassed the 72 hours golden time. And we are also going to search every single corner about the devastated areas. We are working together with the Ministry of Civil Service, providing the health care and other relief work. We have so many different disaster temporary houses for the disaster-stricken areas, and for those who are living in the temporary houses and the temporary centers, we are going to provide them the daily necessities. It is very important for us to satisfy their demand. As I have mentioned, the governmental offices is going to become the first responser to this emergency. Through these mechanisms, we are going to satisfy the local people's needs and have a better control toward what is happening on the site. And if there is more demand comes up, we are going to give them more support. from Asahi News. Could you tell us about the death tolls and the injured? And we have heard that there are some of the undetected people after the tsunami. Could you give us more data for the death toll up until today's 7 a.m.? According to the information of the prefecture, the death toll raised to 73, and the severely damaged is around 105. For the mildly damaged, there is 203 people. For those who suffered from the tsunami, I'm sorry, I don't have any data at my hand. I am going to give you the number later after today, after I have double-checked the information. I am Alai with the Kyoto information. I want to double confirm one important matter. We are trying to satisfy the local people's needs, but the local site is still affected by the situation. Could you tell us more about what is happening on the site? Just as I have introduced to all of you, we are going to have a better control and management of the site. We are still researching on the site. Actually, last night, the weather situation is very extreme. I believe that we should adopt the relevant measures to deal with the extreme coldness during the night. What we could only do is provide more materials and supplies. And you have also mentioned about the permissions on these areas. Currently, we allocated 22.3 billion Japanese yen as the governmental financial fund to support the local area. This is what I'm thinking. From my personal point, I've been to the site, just as you have mentioned. The golden period of 74 hours is tickling. We are fighting against the time, and we are actually having a better control about what is happening on the situation. After we have a better information on the site, we are going to give a better policies against the situation. But generally speaking, what we could do at our hand is to provide more daily necessities to those people who is suffered from the site.